All right, the Utah Jazz go on an offensive barrage, an insane amount of threes and scoring behind some really good defense, and they beat the Clippers. This is the Hoops Nerd postgame show. All right, guys, that was a nice game to watch. It felt like both teams came out looking to win that game, and I think after 3 games with Utah, we've really found out like what their style is. It was nice to see Royce O'Neal back because it kind of completed that roster. The Jazz look pretty much healthy at this point. And so I think Azubuike was out, but overall the main rotation players were healthy, and we saw what they could do when they're firing on all cylinders. But first, let's talk about the Clippers. It was nice to just get a chance to see the Clippers, kind of a new look Clippers. Obviously, their core pieces of Kawhi Leonard and Paul George being surrounded by their role players is still a very good core. And that defense for the Clippers to me, that's really the identity of that team and how they're going to win games, because you have 2 elite wing defenders in Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. And you saw that in this game, that they were really doing a good job of closing lanes, making things hard on the Jazz. And it was a close game for most of that first half. Utah had a few little spurts in the second quarter, but for the most part, the game was pretty close and within Clippers range. And that's how they're going to win games, because they have the ability to really defend. With having 2 elite wing defenders like that, that's a great core to build a defense around. And you've got like Pat Beverly at the front. He's a hound dog, just guarding everybody and just giving, crazy defensive energy. You've got other long wing defenders. I like that they got Serge Ibaka. I don't think he played tonight. He didn't play tonight, but that was kind of a bummer. I wanted to see him. But Zubac is a nice. Is it Zubac or Zubac? Let me know in the comments. But he is a nice center. He's a rotation starting level center. They got basically for nothing from LA, which was, one of those trades that people don't talk about enough. The Lakers have gotten lucky by just being the Lakers and getting LeBron to come to their team. But outside of that, they did a lot of stupid things, and one of those is giving Zubac to the Clippers for nothing. And he's a nice player. Gobert guarded him really well, and Zubac had a 2-for-7 night, so that's the Gobert effect. But he's a nice player, and he does a lot of nice things. But I liked what we saw from the Clippers. I think Luke Kennard has a chance to be really nice for them off the bench, to be a nice scoring guard, and they've got some nice pieces. I really like... like we said, I really would have liked to see Ibaka, because he is, I don't care what anyone says, he's an upgrade on Harrell. You could not play Harrell in the playoffs, and he was a big reason they couldn't beat the Nuggets. And so they've upgraded to Ibaka and kept, for the most part, their core guys. So it's nice to see. Really nice. For Utah, I think the Jazz have a very clear identity. We don't know what's going to happen with Rudy Gobert. And after tonight, I have a thought about that maybe it doesn't matter. But man, this team shot a lot of threes. It was a 3-point barrage. And they shot 46% on their threes tonight and took 52 threes. So they made 24 3-pointers tonight. And just for perspective, in terms of 3-pointers, they took 3-pointers. I guess I can't see that tonight. 52 threes. But overall, they took 91 shots. So over 50% of their shots were from 3. And they hit 46% of them. So what the Jazz really have is an identity of Rudy Gobert at center on defense for the starting unit. Derek Favors is the backup center, and your defensive center position is just locked down. And then you surround it with either playmakers or 3-point shooters. So you have Donovan Mitchell, who's running more point guard than he's done. We've seen him run more point guard than ever these last 3 games, with Mike Conley being more of a shooting guard playing off of him, which I think is perfect, because Conley can be just kind of that spot-up shooter. He's a nice off-ball player now. He can be an ISO guy that plays off of Donovan Mitchell, gets the ball, goes in and makes a shot, or just takes threes, or finds the open guy. It's a really nice little backcourt. I know little might be a little bit of a pun there because they're not very big, but offensively it's fantastic. But when you have Rudy Gobert behind you, it's a big luxury to have, you can play with a smaller backcourt as long as they're scoring. And the Jazz are making up for whatever deficiencies they now have, which are far fewer, with 3-point shooting. Everyone on this roster, top to bottom, is a 3-point shooter outside of Rudy Gobert and Derek Favors. Bojan Bogdanovic tonight was the leading scorer, tied with Jordan Clarkson for the lead in scoring, 20 points. Bojan Bogdanovic is going to have a monster year. Tonight he takes 9 threes, hits 5 of them, 55%. That is blistering production. And I like what we see from Jordan Clarkson. He is going to be the 6th man of the year this year. There is no reason to believe he's not going to do it because he's getting open spot up threes, and there is spacing on the floor, whether he's with Derek Favors or Rudy Gobert, that he can go in and get buckets. Tonight, Jordan Clarkson was taking shots. He took 15 shots, but 12 of them were threes, and he hit 5 threes. That's bonkers. It's bonkers. It's insane efficiency for Utah. 20 points for Clarkson, 46% from the field, 41% from 3. You've got to be that's ecstatic stuff. That's offensive production that you just can't. I mean, that's fantastic. Everyone across the board was hitting a high level amount of threes, and they were like, it felt like at a certain point the Clippers were guarding really well, but then the Jazz just go on these insane bursts. It happened against the Suns multiple times. That third quarter, and I think tonight, I don't know exactly when, but you have just these massive runs where all of a sudden Bojan hits a 3, Ingles hits a transition 3, Jordan Clarkson hits 1 or 2. I mean, that one shot where he was getting fouled and he just kind of flicked it in. I mean, you're going to get to the point where the Jazz are going to be so effective offensively because they're shooting so many threes. They're going to be in every game they're playing. Tonight, I felt like the Clippers kind of outplayed them in that first quarter and parts of the second, just because of their incredible talent and length with Kawhi and Paul George. But because the Jazz are taking so many threes and hitting them at a very nice level, they were in the game. There was never a point in the game. I think the Clippers had like a 7-point lead at one point. It never felt like the Jazz were out of it. The Jazz can get into games they're behind. They can just find these flurries of scoring. And it's going to happen multiple times throughout the season. So it's exciting to see this Jazz team be able to, stay in every game, go on runs, and actually run away with games. There are going to be times where we're going to see a lot of garbage unit, and the Jazz need that for this shortened season. So it's kind of a perfect storm here with Utah. Now, we mentioned it before. Rudy Gobert contract is looming. And guys, it's time to get a little nervous about that because I don't know when that's going to be figured out, how long it's going to take, but we basically have till the 21st, which is Monday, to get a Supermax. And maybe the Jazz will give a regular max after that. Maybe Rudy's just going to request the Supermax until that point. But I don't know what's going to happen. But one thing I'm kind of seeing from this team in this preseason, they might be a tiny bit Rudy-proof. So let's say Rudy Gobert just gets mad because he doesn't get the Supermax. The Jazz can't figure something out. The Jazz have a system right now, at least offensively, that is elite. Like the Jazz can have a top 5 offense in the league if this is what they're going to do. If they're doing this, shooting this many threes and hitting them at this clip, this is like top 5 level offense stuff. Now, can the Jazz find someone in a trade that can replace Rudy if he decides he wants to go? Probably. And they can probably find a center somewhere. There are teams out there that might have a trade they're willing to make. Maybe Brooklyn, and you can get Jared Allen. Or maybe you can go to Atlanta and get Clint Capella. And you fill that role that Rudy does. And it's obviously not as good as Rudy because no one is. Rudy is a defensive force. And that's why Utah should try to give him some sort of max. But you can't give a super max, and be able to keep this level of talent around them. So, with this offensive production the Jazz are doing, with the defenders they've gotten on the perimeter, like we saw Shaq Harrison play tonight, looked really kind of solid on the defensive end. I mean, his defensive energy is impressive. And you've got Royce O'Neal. You've got Mie who's developing into a really nice 3-and-D player. There are some things that the Jazz can maybe make up for a loss of Rudy if they can find a center that can replace his production and then replace that with good defenders. I mean, it's kind of impressive what the Jazz have done. The fact that they have defensive, they said before this offseason they wanted to improve their defense while not sacrificing their spacing, and they have absolutely done that. 100%. They have improved their spacing and their defense, and it showed tonight. There is no let off from Rudy to Derek in terms of defense because Rudy is the best defender in the league, and then Derek is a top 10 defensive center. So when Derek Favors is guarding bench units, it's just an elite level of defense happening. So Utah has an incredible, they have just an incredible identity right now. It's basically efficient, high-level, 3-point focused offense. And then on the other end, high-level defense with Rudy Gobert and Derek Favors. And this is a formula the Jazz can win with. And maybe after a preseason like this, the Jazz can figure something out with Rudy, because the best case scenario for the Jazz is to re-sign Rudy. But if that falls through, the Jazz might be a little bit Rudy-proof with what they've created with this team. It's exciting to see. I have excitement. I have thrills in my body, my little 5'8" body. Guys, that's all I got to say today. Make sure you like and subscribe to the video. Make sure you're hitting the bell and watching all these videos. Watch them all. If you don't like them, at least watch them, because it helps me out. Guys, I will talk to you later.